Hey guys, my name's Kyle Defoe. I work for Monster Energy Pro Circuit Kawasaki on Cameron McAdoo's bike. So starting at the front of the bike, Cameron runs a Renthal twin wall handlebar. The 997 is his preferred bend. We got Renthal grips as well, soft half waffle. He prefers a little bit cushy feel there for his hands. We also run Renthal grip donuts. Because of the amount of riding that they do, it's best to have these to prevent blisters. We make our clamps and bar mounts at Pro Circuit, so it's Pro Circuit product. Cameron runs his bars in a fairly far back position. We have two mounting holes on the Pro Circuit triple clamp where we run ours in the back. The reason I believe we have Cameron's in the back is to get him positioned over the bike a little better. We're trying to avoid him hanging over the front of the bike at all, so we believe that that's the best position for that. We run a Pro Circuit throttle tube, also manufactured by Pro Circuit. We run stock throttle cables. Cameron likes a little bit of slack in his, so we don't get a little too much whiskey throttle here and there. Bob from ARC, he's got us set up in the control department. We have foldable ARC levers. That's bolted up to an older model Nissan Caliper that we use because we prefer the piston size on that. It goes well with our supercross Nissan front master cylinder. Cameron's electrical on his handlebars is pretty straightforward. We have our kill switch on our left side. On the right side, we have our start button with a 3D printed housing to avoid Cameron from bumping it when his knees or his hands are in the way. We have a Works front brake hanger on our bike. We run a little carbon guard over our front clutch master cylinder. The piston is very exposed in that, so if we do that, it can avoid any potential damage to that and make the clutch fail. We radius our bar rotator clamp bolts so the rider will not snag their pants on it in a corner. Yeah, our wire going to our start button, we have a non-abrasive sheathing over it. The rider's legs are up there quite a bit, and we have had where a rider is sheared through the start button, then it doesn't work. Cameron has very strong legs, so we run a carbon brace underneath the shrouds from squeezing, and so it doesn't rip the shroud out of the frame. Yeah, on our muffler, we add a little bit of extra guard. The riders really squeeze their muffler surprisingly as well, and if it's very hot, they can crush their mufflers, so that just adds a little bit of a buffer between their foot and the hot exhaust. All of our aftermarket electronics, we do an auto sport connector. It's a very, very well sealed connector, so there's no potential of moisture entering. So we run a 2D data system on our bike. This red plug up here is for a USB port to record all of our information, and we can download it to our computer after the moto, see everything from speeds to temperatures. We have an O2 lambda on our bike that reads air-fuel mixture in our exhaust, so that helps us see all that. And next to that, we have a GPS just to tell location on the tracks. Not as useful in inside arenas because we don't get satellite reception in there, but places like Daytona, Atlanta, outdoor places, it's very good to have that. Cameron's forks are Pro Circuit kit suspension done by Showa, Kashima coated for friction. Some pretty cool Thai nitride lowers. That also is for friction. We have Pro Circuit triple clamps on our bike. That is a production part as well that anybody could buy. On the forks, we've got a Pro Circuit start band. It's got two buttons that have 15 millimeters of separation on them. We run ours at 140 and 155 millimeters down, so it's way down there. Because our start band is so low, we have a brace on the bottom of the fork guard. It's just a metal strap on the inside with a tie bolt that just gives it a little extra support so we don't rip our fork guard out of our lug. So the front wheel, we have a KHI factory hub with some SR spokes with Excel A60 hoops. We got a titanium axle front and rear on this bike with some titanium axle pinch bolts as well. So we have Dunlop tires. This is a spec tire on our bike that will eventually become production. This is just pre-pro right now that we do a little testing on. Cameron is very simple on his tires. He runs the same front all year round. Some tracks that are a bit sandier, we run a paddle hybrid in the rear, but for the most part, he's always on the same tire. We run a radiator that we custom order from Italy. It's got an integrated oil cooler system in it that we can pump our engine oil through our radiators to cool off. Also, to hold the coolant in, we run a 1.8 radiator cap. It's off a previous model Kawasaki. And then if we do spit a little coolant out, we have a Pro Circuit catch can that will hold all of that coolant in, and when the bike cools off, it'll recoup it back into the coolant system. Arc from Bob also supplies us with a very cool transponder holder. It's very strong aluminum Pro Circuit steering stem. Cameron likes his steering not on the tight side, but I would say tighter than the average person. So in the emergency that the handlebar switch is broke to start the bike, on one of the beams on the frame, we have a secondary start button. Same button that's on the bars, just hidden, tucked away a little bit under the plastics. Yeah, Samco, they stepped on board with us just recently, so we're very excited about their hoses. They custom tailor them to our bikes and our radiators. We have a 2-ply hose, so it's thinner for supercross. Some situations such as motocross will run a 3-ply hose to avoid any type of punctures. On the engine, we run a Pro Circuit water pump and oil filter cover. That's something you can also buy over the counter at Pro Circuit. One of the cool things about Pro Circuit is all of the mechanics build their own engines for their race bikes, their practice bikes, testing. So that's really cool. We get to be hands-on with everything inside the engine. I hate to say it right now, but he's been very simple with this engine. He obviously prefers a little more bottom than top. He's been riding it in the very low meat of the engine lately. We have a Hinson clutch assembly in there that keeps down on heat and has cool coatings on all of it to make heat go away. On clutch springs, we run a Pro Circuit product as well. Anybody can purchase it. It's a 15% stiffer clutch spring. So that just helps a little bit out in supercross with things like whoops or starts on the metal grate where it really needs to engage. Engine here, we acadize our primary cover. We also acadize our slave cylinder on our clutch. Supercross is pretty hard on the bikes, contrary to popular belief. There is a lot of rocks and debris on the track. Acadizing is just an extra layer of protection over the raw aluminum. So we run a full carbon skid plate with a carbon water pump cover. I have actually taken the skid plate off of Cameron's bike before and he has been able to tell. So that is a little bit of an added structural piece to our bike. The exhaust that we run on our bike is a Pro Circuit exhaust, also built in-house. This is an exhaust anybody could buy for their bike. In the front of our engine, we run a titanium triangle piece to stiffen it up a little bit in the front. It's got a really cool tie-dyed coating on it that the guys at Showa do for us. The top head stays, we got a drilled head stay for a little less rigidity. We're looking for a little more flex in that area. So yeah, on the frame, we have a Vibram grip tape, very durable, very grippy. We can get a more aggressive model of it for motocross or mud conditions. Then up the side of Cameron's number plate, he likes a very aggressive, almost skateboard grip tape to grip on the rubber of his boots. So we run a SR brake pedal with a folding tip. Definitely need a brake snake on that for if they clip a tough block. It will add an extra line of defense against bending or a possible DNF. Our rear brake, we have a brake pedal stop on our swing arm pivot in the occurrence that the brake pedal is hit up, so it cannot pull the guts out of the rear brake. Pro Circuit clevis attached to a SR rear master cylinder. No window in the back, that's a potential hazard that could be broken. So our foot pegs are also Pro Circuit. The customer can purchase the peg and the mount. We have an added line of defense with a rock shield on the bottom so mud can't be packed in, so the peg can't get stuck up and cause a problem on the track. So yeah, we have a Showa kit shock as well, also available to the public. Below that, we have a Pro Circuit link arm and a knuckle available to the public as well. We are able to cater to our riders a little bit with pull rod length and knuckle dimensions. Now, front and rear brake, I leave the sheathing on the bike. I put a little bit of electrical tape over the sheathing each week to make it look fresh every week, so I don't need to replace the lines. On the back of the bike, we have a carbon caliper guard, stock caliper. We put a hole in the top of it to get a little more air intake into the brake pads. I like to put a little bit of a chamfer on my rear brake pads, not too much though, just a little bit of a chamfer to slide my wheel in. So if you're in a fire drill or an emergency, it's just easier and you don't have to fumble with your brake pad. We have a nitride coated piston in our rear caliper with some holes drilled into it for also airflow to get through there. Cuts down on weight as well. I know it may seem silly, but we don't cut any corners. Yeah, the hanger holding the rear brake is a SR hanger. Yeah, so we have a Pro Circuit axle axle blocks. They're very convenient, very precise. We still run a cotter pin on our rear axle. It's just kind of been the pro circuit way, and it's another safety measure, so we know that we've tightened our axle. Yeah, so we run a billet exhaust mount on our subframe just for another line of defense against very rough conditions. Seat bouncing, the subframe gets contorted a lot, so that's just to avoid braking. Rear wheel, same as the front. We're running a factory hub with a SR spokes on a Excel A60 hoop. Got Renthal sprockets. Prefers his axle position pretty neutral. If we do need to make any changes, we'll go a bit longer with it, but we prefer it very centered in the swing arm. We also run a titanium rear axle. So we run a Pro Circuit carbon chain guide. Reason it's carbon, it avoids bending. If you bend it, it could potentially derail your chain. That is over-the-counter product that we sell at Pro Circuit. Yeah, we run a stock chain slider up front. We dimple our bolts. It kind of gives it that cool factor. We run a titanium swing arm pivot. We put a little aluminum plug in the end just so it doesn't pack up with mud or dirt. So we have a Pro Circuit air boot that feeds the fire breather. That is available at Pro Circuit as well for the customer. We have a Twin Air air filter. Twin Air makes a few different foam densities for us to run in supercross, motocross, mud conditions, and that has an SR cage holding it onto the air boot for a little bit of extra airflow and some added rigidity. So Cameron's seat, we don't like to put more than 2 races on it. He likes a firm seat pad, does not want his butt to potentially touch the seat pan underneath, and it just gives another added level of comfort for him. Throttle Syndicate seat cover that's ribbed from front to rear. Cameron just wants added grip everywhere he's at on the bike. Yeah, we run a Pro Circuit shifter. Cameron's very neutral on that. It's standard length, standard height. It has a folding tip for ruts, just to bend around anything that he needs to. Next to that, we have a Pro Circuit ignition cover with Pro Circuit timing plugs. All of that can be purchased at Pro Circuit. So in our engine, we do run a JE piston. They're very good people to work with, and they cater to all of our needs. Under the seat, we start our bike with an anti-gravity battery. There's a 4 and a 6 cell battery. We prefer the 4 cell battery. It's a little bit lighter. On the left side under the shroud, we tuck away a little 2D system that again helps with our O2 reading on our exhaust. It's just another tool that we use to help dial in the bike on race day. Most of our electronics are in the standard position that they come on the bike. Kawasaki did a very good job with locating everything, and the engine bay is very open and clear. If we need to do an engine swap on this, it's very simple. On the left side of the frame, now we have a launch control button. It's normally located on the handlebars. We try to clear up the bars a little bit in case we need to run handguards or such. That button is just going to help the rider ignition timing and fuel timing maybe for the very start of the race. Cameron is a bit taller of a rider, so it's happened where he's gotten his boots or pants stuck on the tip of the shrouds. We add a little carbon tip on there to just extend it a couple inches. So we run a pretty heavy duty carbon front rotor guard. In the situation that somebody slides into him or a bike bumps against him, it's a good protector from the rotor. It works well in deep ruts like Daytona to ski through the rut and not catch the lug in the dirt. Yeah, we use Maxima lubricants and chemicals on our bike. Their oil is phenomenal. We build our bikes and engines with their assembly lube. Their anti-seize grease works everywhere very well on our bolts. We have Ivan Tedesco in our corner, which is really cool. Ivan is very in touch with the bike. He is able to test 7 or 8 different items in a day and then dwindle it down to 2 or 3 for our riders to finalize and see what they like. Yeah, Throttle Syndicate does a very good job with the graphics. They minimize the amount of weight that we're adding to the bike by cutting them in very important spots. On the side plates, they're cut back pretty high so the rider doesn't rub them off, and that's also a comfortable thing for the rider to not feel the graphics under their boot.